first item will be roll call, and we have Jamie filling in at secretary.
Oh, after Commissioner Chair Horn.
Here.
Vice Chair Gork here. Secretary Polchak is absent. Excused. Oh, thanks. I'll fix that. Alderman Mayor. Commissioner Cieslik.
Here.
Commissioner Sharma. And then Commissioner Nemec.
Present.
Okay.
Oh, you're good.
And next we'll do the pledge. I pledge you
And
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next, we'll open up the citizen comment period. Are there any citizens that wish to speak? Okay, hearing none, we will close that at 7:01. We'll do approval of minutes. We have the Buckthorn Subcommittee meeting of January 5th. Are there any comments or motion?
I motion to approve.
Second.
Okay. All in favor? Aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay. And second will be the regular meeting of January 12th.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second again.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, those are done. And what I would like to jump to item V, new business. E as in Edward, since we have Laura, I believe, attending the meeting to make a presentation. Is there anyone opposed to that? Okay, we'll handle that item first. Laura, if you want to introduce yourself and...
Hello, my name is Laura Herrick. I'm the Chief Environmental Engineer at Sewer Pack. I'm here today to present on the Oak Creek Watershed Restoration Plan and for adoption by the city. So first thing I'd like to do is why would you want to adopt this plan? And then I'll talk a little bit about talking to Glenn. We'll take questions as we go. I think that'll probably make more sense. So plan adoption, as you can see on the right is the watershed, the Oak Creek watershed, and the city of Franklin is the light blue in the lower left. So it's just a portion of the city, but it definitely part of the portion of the city. But it definitely part of the plan, and Glenn did participate in plan development, was to kind of get a common understanding amongst all these communities, including the city. So City of Oak Creek is in yellow. Dark green is City of South Milwaukee, and then Cudahy's in the upper right. Dark green is City of South Milwaukee, and then Cudahy's in the upper right. City of Milwaukee in the middle upper, and a little bit of City of Greenfield. So this is the watershed, which encompasses part of the city of Franklin. And it definitely, adopting it is I'm going to skip down to the third bullet, required for quite a bit of funding. I'm going to skip down to the third bullet, required for quite a bit of funding opportunities out there too, especially federal funding opportunities. They'll look to, if the city were to chase a project, go after a grant, they'll ask, did you adopt this Oak Creek plan that project came out of? So that's important. It helps with tracking, and it definitely helps the city kind of incorporate some of these ideas we have for improving the watershed into other work plans, like related to roads or stream restoration, etc. So the plan, I did not bring my full copy. I think we have a copy at the library, I believe. Okay. So it's in 3 volumes. And it's also available on our website for anyone to look at. And that was during actually plan production as well. During draft chapters, it was all on our website. So the purpose of the plan was to develop a targeted set of recommendations to, you can see the 4 focus areas are there. Recreation we also looked at, and targeted flooding. And then we also looked at it as it related to the Mill Pond and Dam. That's down in the city of South Milwaukee, right at the outlet, close to the outlet, and very full of sediment right now and not in great shape. So This is our organization as well. That's the Regional Water Quality Management Plan. And we are right now working on getting it approved as a 9-key element plan with DNR and US EPA. And that gets you to all those great federal and state funding opportunities. So I'm going to go through problems really quick. All these problems are very typical of a very urban an urban watershed, which is what the Oak Creek watershed is. High nutrients, high fecal, low dissolved oxygen in certain reaches, poor aquatic communities, lots of exotic and invasive species. So we came up with a set of lots of exotic and invasive species. So we came up with a set of projects and recommendations to improve the watershed. And the general recommendations, a lot of them apply across the entire community and are of more general in nature, and then we also developed over 400 specific projects. And I'll talk about a few of them specific to the city of Franklin. And we did some example stormwater management projects as well that I'm going to talk about a little bit more. Oh, oops, not too bad. So some examples, this is 5 years of work. So some examples, this is 5 years of work in half an hour, so I can't go through everything, but we did look a lot at eroding stream banks, and we'll show an example from the upper part of Oak Creek. In the city, green infrastructure is recommended. Looking at de-icing, calibrating de-icing buffers are some examples of the projects we recommended. So example stormwater projects, I call these retrofit projects. And what I've shown here, this is my first screen capture of just the portion of the watershed in the city of Franklin. And here we looked at, in the light blue, was a retrofit of a wet detention pond before it hit the stream. It was probably built before that was a requirement. So that could be something to consider. And also everything in the lighter green, we looked at pervious pavement parking lots. So for public facilities like schools here, at Public Works, etc. And those are some other ideas for kind of retrofits into your portion of the watershed. Habitat as well. It's a very modified stream throughout the entire watershed, not only just in the city. A lot of the reaches are disconnected from their floodplains, and what I mean by that is the stream should have probably spread out and slow down. But now, as is typical of an urban, it has to flood a lot deeper before it can get out of banks. So it's eroding channels like crazy, and we'll show a few examples in the city as well. Poor diversity of in-stream habitat and riparian buffers, which is that area in the floodplain habitat, and riparian buffers, which is that area in the floodplain to kind of let critters move, slow water down, and capture, do help with water quality as well. I'm sorry, this map is a little tough to read, but this is your portion of the watershed. I believe Putes Road is to the north portion of the watershed. I believe Putes Road is to the north, and I believe that's 35th Street is kind of to the eastern end. Everything in green is what is now what we call a buffer, a natural area. But what's hatched black is not in public ownership right now. That would be awesome if it did. Is not in public ownership right now. That would be awesome if it did go into public ownership, for example. As well as some of the colors mean further distance from the stream to be more beneficial. If you can get more area for both critters to move and for the water quality and stormwater benefits, these are some ideas we had in the plan. I wanted to show an area specific, and we'll show this area a couple more times with different ideas. But this is one idea to think about. And I apologize, it's a little tough to see, but stream bank erosion in the left, the gentleman in the upper left is 6 feet tall, so as you can see, I'm holding the rod. So that's a pretty eroded portion of the stream. It has to get really deep before it can spread out and slow down, so it's just eroding away as well. In the upper right, we have a lot of ideas. There weren't too many failing outfall, so we took pictures along the way, which is a great inventory for all the communities to take advantage of. In the upper right was one where fecal contamination was actually detected during dry weather. It was canine based, so dog based. So some ideas there for maybe more opportunities to, and in the lower right is an exposed stormwater manhole essentially near West Woodward Drive in the city that might be worth looking at a little more detail because that's pretty exposed right now. So the report has pictures of everything and staff spent 2 summers walking the entire Oak Creek main stem, all of the North Branch, and all of Mitchellfield drainage ditch as well, so in other communities. There are 4 drop structures, I believe, Glenn, in this section that's highlighted in pink of the Oak Creek main stem, and none of them are in very good shape. The upper left is a picture of one of them that's failing, and these were probably put in place for grade control. You know, the channel had been lowering, so a hardened spot for it to drop. So one idea we put in, and this would be I consider this a pilot project idea, was to do what we show in the lower left, kind of instead of doing a concrete drop, you could do what they call regenerative stormwater conveyance system. So you try to get some treatment in there too. And still keep conveyance system. So you try to get some treatment in there too. And still keep those drops, but take care of, you know, failing concrete drop structures. So that was an idea specific to the city. Since you do have some infrastructure that's not in good shape, an idea, you can take care of that and still get some more water quality benefit. Trash. Trash was an issue throughout the whole entire watershed. So some ideas for doing cleanup days. Maybe potentially, we notice a lot of tires because you have to pay to get rid of tires. Does it make sense to maybe have a collection day for tires? It's an idea. Not necessarily in this watershed, but tires are just such an issue because you have to pay to get rid of them. Targeted flooding, there wasn't a ton of flooding issues except for what we showed here in the city, which was more related to the mapped FEMA floodplains, or the FEMA floodplains show a lot of overtopping through this reach. Something to think about is if you're doing a road project, you'd rather have the water go under the road than over the road. So you could make a larger opening, similar to the picture in the upper right, have the flow go under the road so it's not eroding over the top. And again, we did definitely flooding. A lot of it's trying to keep the water more on the land. And I know the community is considering that. All the communities are considering that as well, where they can fit it in. I don't know if there's much interest in the Mill Pond and Dam. I can skip this.
I know where it is, but it's fine.
Yeah,
I grew up in Cudahy.
Okay.
But we don't need to talk about it. I grew up in Cudahy.
Okay.
But we don't
We'll
need to
go
talk
through it
about
real quick. There's sediment issues and there's a sluice gate problem at the Mill Pond. And so we looked at alternatives to either partially restore, fully restore, or remove the dam. We gave some ideas there. And construction costs were high. Some ideas there. And construction costs were high. This is owned, the Mill Pond is owned by Milwaukee County, so that is kind of theirs to take forward. But we did recommend sediment core sampling that the county is working on right now using the piece of equipment there. So they'll have to figure out how contaminated that sediment right now using the piece of equipment there. So they'll have to figure out how contaminated that sediment is before they can decide what they want to do with it. And recreational access was the last piece. A lot of good ideas for recreation to take better advantage of the stream corridor. And I just wanted to show, so this is that same section in the city of Franklin, and we have maps showing all the project ideas. There's over 400 projects, and all these dots represent a project idea, just even in this little portion of Franklin. Implementation, first thing is having all, and a lot of the projects, they don't necessarily have to be done just by the community. There's other entities, nonprofits, other agencies that could pursue projects as well. And this will be a 9-key element plan. We will work through that, and it needs to be updated at some point in the future. But the schedule is over 30 years. It's not like it's going to happen overnight. And we developed costs, and we did also have a really good list of funding programs as well to consider when you're pursuing a project. So a couple project ideas to throw out for Franklin was that pet waste collection plan. kind of related to that canine fecal sort. Another good one is a BMP inventory and tracking for all your like stormwater ponds, for example, of when they're inspected and maintained. That becomes a challenge if they're owned by POAs, I know, but a lot of them are probably full. You know, so that's an idea. Supporting river cleanups and for every community in the watershed. Longer term.
What's the acronym BMP stand for?
I'm sorry, best management practice. Mostly stormwater ponds, but not just stormwater ponds, but that's the big one where they've been put in, but now are they full of sediment?
Yeah,
Or is the outlet not working? And not all of them are, you know, community,
yeah.
or is the outlet not working? And not all of them are, you know, community owned. But, you know, that's something to think about. If a lot of them aren't, are they being maintained? I think some of the communities I'm not sure about in this watershed, we're thinking of offering some help to some, I'm not sure about in this watershed, we're thinking of offering some help to some of the POAs. How do you do that? You know, what do you do is a thought. Pilot projects for those pervious pavement parking lots, or that would be another longer term project. Those 4 drop structures, investigate another longer term project. Those 4 drop structures, investigate those a little closer. And we did also notice the South 35th Street culverts are actually, water's flowing between them. You wouldn't know it until you got inside the culvert. It's on the main stem, so just a little south and west, south and east of that diamond there on that 35th Street crossing. One of the culverts is completely blocked with sediment, and what's not blocked, the water can like go in between to the other one. So that's something to maybe look at in the future. And then that outfall with high people. And so that was all I had, and my contact info.
I was on one of Sewer Pack's stream delineations when I was in college. So I know walking through the streams and how fun that can be.
There's a stream
Yes.
of the city of Franklin that, you know, we couldn't even walk part of it. It had so much sediment in it, right there in the main stem.
Is this the first time for this plan, or is it an update?
It is the first time.
Okay.
We've done previous planning, but not to this level. We've done more flooding only. So this is our first good, solid look.
I just have a question. What does Franklin have in place right now for, like, cleaning out culverts and the rivers and stuff? Do we have anything in place as a community of Franklin? Sorry, not trying to put you on the spot, but just,
I don't know.
So I would say that we respond to complaints.
okay.
And then we have a report sometime this year. We'll try to get through it. If there are projects that this commission would want us to focus on, we can possibly look for a 23 funded. Want us to focus on, we can possibly look for a 23 funded. But it's up to common council to fund whatever we do.
Okay.
I do know that we have a 35th Street bridge, that we have some sediment right at the bridge. We need to clean that out based on our bridge inspection. So right at the bridge, we need to clean that out based on our bridge inspection. So we're planning to do that probably next year, so.
So when you say help, do you have people that are like volunteers, or how does that work?
I'm sorry.
Do you have volunteers to help with some of the stuff, like cleanups? Volunteers to help with some of the stuff, like cleanups?
Yes, a lot of it, you know, would be like working with maybe a local neighborhood group or something like that to say
Okay.
that we're going to kind of not, you know, like I'm picturing the highway cleanups where they take kind of ownership or
Yeah.
responsibility. We'll clean this up once a year. Or River Keeper also has done river, kind of helping to organize those. But it could be any group. I just think
Sure.
the city support a little bit would be great.
Yeah. Just maybe some common talk or that newsletter we send out. Like if we could raise awareness and then do a group outing. Just throwing it out there.
I would add that Hunger Task Force, I know at least once, if not 2 or 3 times a year, will do a cleanup behind their property. They're north of Ryan. But that's not this watershed.
looking for, was this just for our information, or are you looking for us to
Adopt the plan or?
make some recommendation to council, or?
So, it's Sewer PAC's intention to have all the communities adopt this plan, and that would be adopted by common council. So I decided to bring a recommendation that I can put in a council action. I'm not sure if it'll get in this week, but at its upcoming council meeting.
Okay.
I'm gonna add a couple things. I think that the plan would work really well with our new UDO rewrite, especially about the management of the storm retention ponds, because that's something big as we're having more and more development come in and those retention ponds being used. Making sure that there's a management plan, I think, is crucial, considering some of ours aren't looking very nice. Also, then implementing that porous pavement would be also good for some of those new developments, or providing some sort of grant money for those developments. I do a plan, and let's say we do a couple projects, but we're nowhere near that 30-year marker. Is there anything that would be detrimental to the city?
No.
Okay. I just want to make sure that we're not signing up for something where if we don't make
No,
a certain development changes, then we're out of touch with what we need to do. I'm trying to cover it here. What's that?
I have a couple of comments, and so we're currently undergoing a rewrite of our entire development ordinance. We've had some discussions about incorporating green infrastructure and also better practices for the landscaping of stormwater management. So we have a sample, but if you have suggestions, it's certainly something that we're happy to incorporate into the discussion. We're in we've just completed the diagnostic step of that, so we're very much at the beginning. I have a question, though, about the recommendation of incorporating pervious pavement, because frankly, which means that those soils are very wet already and sort of wetland conditions. So there have been a few pervious pavement projects in the city that my understanding is they don't perform well. I wonder if Glenn has comments about that as well.
But as you said, hydric soils are everywhere in Franklin, home of the wetlands. It doesn't really do any good to let water soak in the soil because the soil won't take it. So the places we have put pavers, we basically treated underneath like a storage facility. So like Caleb's Playground is an example. But underneath the pavers, there's 2 feet of clear stone, and it really just holds the water and then lets it drain to a wetland. It doesn't soak in the ground. In fact, the soils report told us that it would not soak in the ground. So I love the idea of pavers, but they don't really do anything here.
a little bit of storage.
The storage is the only thing. Yeah, they
right.
really don't. They really don't soak away. So I think our bang for our buck is to get native plants with deep roots. So that does allow some water uptake, if you will, which is what we try to do at Rawson Homes, which is like 35th and Madison. We just, matter of fact, I probably in Madison. Matter of fact, I probably need to replant those plants, but that's a situation where we've got a storage beneath the ground, but we try to put native plants on top, and the idea is that the water would uptake through the plants. Uptake through the plants.
Okay, did you have a comment? Or-
Yeah, just 2 comments.
And if you want to identify yourself
My name is Dave Giordano, I'm the
Microphone.
executive director.
and the microphone. A lot of rules around here.
Director.
And the microphone. A lot of rules around here.
My name is Dave Giordano, I'm the executive director for Root Pike Watershed Initiative Network, and we're the keepers of the Respect Our Waters program, which we provide that service to the city of Franklin along with us. And I just want to say briefly, we use the 9 key element plans all the time, not only to guide what projects are meaningful and how we substantiate them and how we show grantors that they're worth doing, but as Laura said, those grantors have deep pockets, but if you're not associating the work to a 9 key element plan or similar, you don't qualify for some of that funding. We've been able to secure and help our municipal partners secure almost $15 million of funding for projects throughout. I'm happy to do the one other thing that Laura brought up was the canine fecal. As part of our Respect Our Waters program, we're going to take that as a cue to do more targeted mailings to that area to make sure. I just want to share those two things with you. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions, comments? Okay, do we want to make a motion on this?
Give me 1 second. 1 second.
1 second. Time out.
Are you working on a motion, Jamie, or are you taking?
I was writing.
Are you working on a motion, Jamie, or are you taking?
I was writing down what he was saying. It was a good comment, but I'm ready for a motion.
Marion, do you have a suggested motion, or Glenn, or?
I would suggest that you may want to recommend to Common Council to adopt the sewer pack. You may want to recommend to Common Council to adopt the sewer pack Oak Creek Watershed Restoration Plan.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. Hearing
Thanks,
none,
Laura.
motion carries.
And she actually Marion has the presentation, so if anyone wants to
Okay,
be in the packet.
okay. Yeah, and we may want to look through it in more detail, see if there's any projects that we want to favor or
Right.
recommend.
I'd like
or-
to look into a little bit more. Yeah.
I can email it out. I know that here.
Oh.
So,
Okay,
I'll send an email.
sounds good. All right, let's see. Since we have Glenn and Tom, should we also hit the rest of the new business?
I would say we should.
So, we can go to item A of new business, the 35th Street Stream Bank Stabilization Project.
So there is a project or location. I am told that back in the day, when you could do a stream was truncated to make the Rawson home neighborhood. So there is a stream that crosses, I want to say it's east of 35th Street, crosses Rawson, east 35th Street, heads south over towards 35th Street. In fact, if you were to be over towards 35th Street, in fact, if you were to be 2 or 3 feet off the edge of pavement, you would actually fall in the creek now. Then the creek continues to meander south through the Northwestern Mutual property. Throughout the years, long before I got here, DPW has made various attempts to try to, armor the channel with, chunks of concrete and so forth, trying to keep that stream from working its way back the way God created it. But it's again, our road's taking a beating. So, but again, our road's taking a beating. So the energy dissipation, we talked to Root Pike Wind, and Dave introduced his organization earlier, and he may want to do so again, but we've asked them to participate with the city, act with us, and help find some grants for some really cool things. So I'm going to let Dave and Krista.
Yeah, I'm going to let Kristen take over.
All right. I'm Christy Heiser, Root Pike Wind Stormwater Resource Consultant. And the big issue that Glenn said is that this road, the stream is moving towards the road, and I'm starting to get disconnected from the floodplain. So similar to what Laura was saying earlier, that water's ripping through there. It's only going to continue to get worse. It's going to move closer to the road, which is just going to be a long-term issue. So we are actually going to be submitting a pre-proposal on Monday to get some design work done for this, hopefully, because there's a lot of potential by you're going to dissipate some of the energy. There's a lot of habitat potential, especially in its current state. The macroinvertebrate data, the fish surveys there are really rough. This area is identified in the Root River 9 key element plan as something that needs to be restored. There's also pollutant loading. So by putting in those riparian buffers, restoring some of the wetlands that are over there, adding in that meandering, that's going to not only be good for infrastructure, but great for habitat potential and water quality. Do you have any questions? Do you have any questions?
I just was wondering if you guys had any like aerial photos taken with a drone or something to kind of show what's going on.
Nothing with
Nothing?
us. There's the footage that's online that I've checked
Oh, there's
out.
some-
Nothing with
Nothing?
us. There's the footage that's online that I've checked
Oh, there's
out, and you can see how it's
Okay.
straightened and.
Where would I find those?
I believe it was on the GIS site. I was looking. I can send them your way though. I haven't saved on my computer.
I will tell you that's an awesome idea. We have a drone in our department, and I will see if. I will tell you that's an awesome idea. We have a drone in our department, and I will see if this next week we can get some nice photos of that area.
I love the idea of restoring the wetlands, and it's great for habitat for natives. So
A question, if I may.
for natives. So
A question, if I may. Is all the property involved publicly owned, or is it all privately owned?
The 35th Street right-of-way is publicly owned, but everything else would be currently owned by Northwestern.
Northwestern Mutual, really?
Aaron, can you pull up the aerial?
yeah, because they're on what?
20.
Cutes?
Yeah,
27th
Drexel.
I thought this was on
Drexel,
Russell.
North of Drexel
Yeah.
North of Drexel.
They're
Yeah,
at
that
the
was
corner
Drexel.
of Drexel and 20.
is their headquarters, but
They have a lot of land. Look, they're making a new entertainment district. Yeah, they own across the street from IKEA. Have you heard about it?
Would it be helpful to do the surface water data viewer, or do you just want an aerial?
The city has to find show properties.
I'm gonna have to go.
It's right down there.
Right?
Maps and GIS. Second
Oh.
column right there.
This is,
My computer's used to just go like that.
mouse is really misbehaving, everyone. I apologize.
So here's Northwestern Mutual, 35th, you've got Madison, you've got Minnesota, you've got Rawson up the top.
Minnesota.
So the creek, if you zoom in just a little bit, the creek, if you zoom in just a little bit. A little bit more so you can see the parcels, yeah. So this is Northwestern Mutual parcel, they own this one, several of these lots. You can see the creek as it kind of wanders through here, and about right here is where you can almost fall off the, if it gets any closer, we have to start barricading the street, so. But there's lots of wetlands in here, and the idea is that, right now, the energy dissipation, they maybe do some sort of meandering of the stream, create some riparian plants and so forth, so that enhance the wetland. Just FYI, Northwestern Mutual is working with MMSD right now for a project up in here to create some wetlands and more storage. So when they do that, this may work in conjunction with that very nicely. There's some issues about taking trees down, so that might be a DPW thing, or maybe as our in-kind services, we would maybe take some trees out selectively as needed kind of thing, but right now it's open for design, so I'm just soap and whatever they do, they come up with where somebody will pay for it. And as a side note, I'll get my road fixed.
But everything to the right of 35th is considered wetlands for most part?
Well, I think the wetlands come to about right there.
Okay.
So there's some building paths up here that, you know, these could turn into something.
It is not currently showing, but there is a recent wetland delineation. There's a wetland complex that goes roughly here. And then this is kind of the boundary of it. So outside of the floodplain, there is a fair bit of wetland.
Glenn, do you mind if I go ahead? One of the things that we'd like to do here is connect, bring the stream over farther this way, re-meander it, and also have some connectivity to some of those wetlands. Wetlands are like your sponges, right? They're going to soak up more water. So to be able to, this is one of those great projects in water. So to be able to, this is one of those great projects in that there's multi-layered benefits. We call it the stormwater sandwich, where there's habitat involved, there's water quality involved, there's certainly, infrastructure benefits involved by getting the stream back. Infrastructure benefits involved by getting the stream back off of 35th. And again, back to those 9 key element plans, we use data in there where we know that the macroinvertebrate numbers are low here. Who cares about that stuff? The funders that want to fund habitat. About that stuff? The funders that want to fund habitat. So it's a win-win. We move this stream over, we create a better stream. Glenn gets his road back off of 35th, and that headache goes away. By connecting them back to some wetlands, and actually through here, the DNR has some of these areas as potentially restorable, or they have wetland characteristics. We want to connect that channel back into all of those wetland areas that aren't connected right now. When we do all that, all those functions, all those natural processes start to come back. And so again, it's a win-win.
So we saw some very, very early maps that maybe indicated maybe the stream used to do something like this. And when it did that, they stream used to do something like this. And when it did that, they truncated the stream, and now it's still the same drop from here to here, but now there's more energy that the creek is not very stable. So.
Got it.
What's the plan for that entire area? What does it show for the future?
Well, you say the
Entire area, what does it show for the future?
entire area. Northwestern Mutual, I think, would love to develop these, or at least have a developer come in and have something nice, commercial-wise. Is what they're looking at. Again, they're working with MSD on some wetland issues. Part of that, they're taking something in the future. Nothing's been decided, but they are valuable lands. Would be nice a place to build something.
So would they be possibly financially backing this? To make the entire property more desirable?
We're having a conversation with Northwestern Mutual. We don't know what we're asking for yet. They're at least a willing participant to allow us to go. They do have some concerns that if we take down a bunch of trees, that won't count against them in trying to develop something here, because you're allowed to take up to 30% trees down. So they'll want some assurances that really doesn't harm them for doing this, but they're definitely open here. That's great, but like I said, they're willing participants, but we don't have any firm commitments.
So are they going to need to do any mitigation anywhere? Could this be a location that they could shift their mitigation to along their stream bank and do this as their?
There's going to be a lot of negotiations. I don't know.
All right.
Where does the water start? If you go further north?
So can you pull it down? So
Your
I think
backyard.
it's like right
Some,
about right there.
but I'm saying up higher up, right?
Oh,
Near
higher
College Avenue? Can we
Yeah.
divert it in the Mud Lake?
I think this does run to the trailer parks that are up here,
In
and
the Mud Lake?
I think this does run to the trailer parks that are up here and
Yes.
so forth. So can you ride into Mud Lake?
You still have to leave Mud Lake somewhere.
So I'm the president of the Friends Group for Griffith Park, and this used to be, I guess, at one point for Griffith Park, we're looking for funding, if Northwestern Mutual wants to help us, help us out, that way.
Well, that would.
You know, if we, you know what I'm saying, like,
Sure. I guess what I'm saying is that would maybe help buffer the amount of water coming through.
yeah,
It would help
Yeah.
Take her
the issue counts out.
Take her
The issue counts out.
That wetland probably has started to fill in the sediment. That would make a great wetland restoration project. We'd certainly be open to helping out with that.
okay.
But you're right, that used to be wetland, that used to be wet
Yeah.
long
Yeah.
ago.
There's funders interested in doing that, and MMSD is one of them. Typically, at least with some of the programs that I know about, I mean, they want to create new wetlands. This is an existing one, but there's funding opportunities to really make existing wetlands function much better. I don't know that you get the DNR to want to divert water, though. That
This has nothing to do with you changing the stream. But is the Superfund site that's just south of this area right here, that where the barrels are, is that pretty much good to go? Like, have they been able to adequately cover it and then at all?
It's my understanding that it's being monitored every year to make sure that nothing is going wrong.
Because I just noticed that it's.
There's no guarantee, but so far so good.
I just see that it's part of that floodplain. That's what I was wondering.
All right, so with a motion on this, also Environmental Commission recommends to the Common Council that,
So this actually already went to Common Council, and it was approved pending discussion with you and your approval. So maybe a proposed motion might be you approve of this process, and maybe
Was there a budget created for this project? Do you know?
I have a budget.
For free. Do it for free.
Yeah, I do believe, I think I put 35,000 in, I forget if it's this year's or next year's budget that I'm
Okay.
anticipating, so we'll have something, but it's not.
I think this is something we should highly recommend, just because in general the water is very low this year, in the last year. A lot of lakes are 2 feet below normal. So if we get a wet year, you're going to see 35th Street with some issues.
Can I say what I have written? So recommend
would
to
you
approve.
like to make a motion?
Okay, sure. I make a motion to recommend to approve moving forward with the 35th Stream Bank stabilization with periodic updates from engineer Morrow and root pipe Win. Is that okay?
Sounds fine.
I'll second again.
All right, those all,
And, I'm sorry, does that say we'll have updates too? Regular updates?
With
Okay, good.
periodic updates.
Perfect.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, motion carries. Information.
Tower Park.
Item B under new business, wetland restoration at a future park, currently under development at 8120 South Lovers Lane Road.
So this one doesn't park, they're gonna be putting water towers there, and we thought, why not turn it into something beautiful that the residents can come and see? There's a lot of wetlands and wetland indicators in that area, so similar idea. We wanna take out any invasives that are there, which I believe that work's already begun, and start to put back in the good native, even more stormwater, and really allow the biodiversity of that area to just flourish.
Can you just give an overview first? So, for those that haven't been here to talk to you, Alderman Mayor obviously knows, but city water utility is putting in a new water tower. We did a study for where should we put these towers in the future, and we selected one site where we're going to put both towers. So we're just going to build one tower right now. This is on Lovers Lane. Target is just to the north. A little bit further south is St. Martin's. Further south is St. Martin's. That kind of gives you an idea where we are. The city last fall purchased 21 acres. These 4 parcels that you see here, the apple orchard is across the street, so that kind of gives you an idea where we are. Gives you an idea where we are. The towers, we got permission from DOT. There was a restricted access, but they gave us permission to put a driveway off of Lover's Lane. On condition, I think they gave me 12 parking spaces. Anything larger than that, all the traffic must come in and out this road right here. Here's the Tri-County. Traffic must come in and out this road right here. Here's the Tri-County Baptist Church. That gives you an indication. So we'll have a couple towers here. We're going to build the second tower first. The driveway will come in, cross the wetland, and actually loop back out that private road that you see out there now. If you've driven, what we did was we hired a contractor. Actually, we bid out a project, and the low bidder did a really great job for us. We basically located the property corners, and we had Tom go out and identify the specimen, the nice specimen trees, and R.A. Smith do a full wetland delineation so we knew where the wetlands were. And we actually flagged them so they could stay out of the wetlands. So there's buckthorns in the wetland that we haven't touched. And so we asked the contractor to go basically mow down all the dead, dying, invasive species trees. Cut about a quarter acre on this neighbor's property, but if you go out there, it looks a lot different now. So they chemically treated the really large stumps. The smaller stuff they didn't do. It was just so thick of buckthorn. We're hoping that DPW can at least stay on top of it now. I asked Recreational Access these towers. I've been part of a lot of wetland restoration plans or biofilters kinds of things, and you have a ribbon cutting ceremony, and everybody goes out there. Yuck! You know, it takes a good 2 years, my experience, to really get plants to look nice. So my goal was while these towers are being built, it's going to take. So my goal was while these towers are being built, it's going to take 18 months to 2 years. I would like to see if we could find some funding and we can actually come in, improve the wetlands, plant with something nice, get them established. So when the water towers are done and we can have people come in and start thinking about a park, we have some nice things to look at there. And then the idea is maybe a passive park with some benches and so forth. I call it the Gruber bathrooms, one stall, that's all. That's really all we need right there. So that's kind of where we'd like to go. So I asked there. So that's kind of where we'd like to go. So I asked Mike Quinn to get involved in similar to the last motion. This has already been to Common Council, and it was approved pending discussion with you on if you're okay with the idea. We've asked Drew Pikeman to act on our behalf to go out and try to find funding for this. We talked about some wetland scrapes, improving the wetlands, and everything else that Kristen just said.
So this would be a public road that's going to go through there, or a private road?
It'll be a public park. So the Baptist Church for public use. So we are in conversations exactly how to go about acquiring that for a public road. So this would be a public road back to here, but we would use that to come out, if you will. This one is blown up on Facebook because we're also putting a water line in with the project. Yeah, so that's, if you hear some conversation, that's what that's about.
I'm kind of curious what Tom feels about this. Can you guys?
Talking with the contractors, it was probably one of the worst. They do this as a job. It was one of the worst sites for thickness of buckthorn, size of buckthorn. Numerous trees that buckthorn in that property. We could walk in 50 feet and get lost real quick. So it was, they did a nice job. Everything's going down low. It's going to be tough to maintain all, but once we get the plans, we can kind of see what area to focus on. Try to keep it under control.
Yeah. So then you're going to have to go in there and you're going to have to treat it for a few years then?
Yeah, treat it and keep it mowed, and
Yeah.
there really wasn't a whole lot there for natural or native vegetation coming up. This is very, very dense. There is a nice little pocket up in the northwest corner there by the church. There is a nice little pocket up in the northwest corner there by the church. That's probably the little nicest piece of some oaks and hickories up in that little corner. There's a couple balsam firs in the south lot lines.
This project is similar to a project that we did in Racine at Pritchard Park. Full of buckthorn. I mean, it was 90% buckthorn in that area. Full of buckthorn. I mean, it was 90% buckthorn in that area, urban park. We got in there with pecan mowers, and then we reached out to the Fund for Lake Michigan to actually bring in the native plants, do some wetland work. And we're 2 years in now. We have found the federally endangered rusty patch bumblebee in that area now.
That's cool.
It's just awesome, and I'll send you some pictures. The site is so beautiful. I mean, it is so beautiful there with all the native plants and pollinators galore. Beautiful there with all the native plants and pollinators galore. I mean, it is a destination now, right in the middle of the urban jungle. So this year has exponential possibilities because of all the connectivity to other sort of natural areas. Buckthorn, and it's going to take years to get rid of. But one of the big strategies is to crowd it out with natives. So as soon as we can go in there and get natives back in there, we flip the model on that site. We flip the model on that site, and that's what we intend to do. And we're looking forward to doing that.
I just have one question. Are we going to be getting park plans, or is the park commission going to be going over plans for like walkways or boardwalks and stuff?
So yeah, have a consultant come on board to help plan it out.
Okay.
I would expect there's going to be some boardwalks. Boardwalks tend to be expensive, so
Yeah.
maybe they might cross over, a few places. There's been a conversation. Can you pull us down a little bit, Harry?
Yep.
This is Aurora.
Sorry, back out.
The thought was we could actually come through. It starts there at the end of the parking lot, and the thought was maybe we could even come over and come in right there beside Pick and Save. So you could have a nice passive park, walk, sit, observe, but it would also connect you to get to other locations. We're also talking with DOT about a 10-foot pathway, actually, Lovers Lane. We haven't got the prices for that yet, but they're including that in their project when they do that.
That'd be nice. Are we recommending this? If there's no more questions, I'm ready for a motion.
It's a very similar motion to last.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I have. So I just want to make sure Root Pike Wind is going to be work city to find funding and work on restoration of wetland at Water Tower Park. Do we want periodic check-ins, council?
Sure.
I think updates would be good.
We have that.
Because you said this would be about 2 years.
It'll be 2 years before it really gets open to the public where you could actually walk in. It'll be 2 years before it really gets open to the public where you could actually walk in there and look at things.
Yeah, and as you know with grants, I mean, it's not a guarantee, but, it's one of our strategic initiatives is to get more restoration done in this watershed and really in the Franklin area because just based on the conversations here, you get it, you understand how important this stuff is. We want to be the catalyst to try to get more of that happen. So none of the decisions about the site get made by us. It all goes through the city processes. So we're just kind of look at us as kind of an extension of your staff, but we don't make any big decisions. We don't do any contracting. We don't do any of that without working through Glenn and Marion. So.
Should I change the wording at all? For like on behalf of, or no? It's,
It was a recommendation, council,
Yeah.
they've already approved it. So.
so that's my motion. I have periodic check-ins by city staff / Root Pike Wind. Because I don't know if Tom would come out or if he would come out. Yeah.
Check-ins, however you want them.
Okay. We need a second, right?
I'll second it.
Okay, Tom? All in favor?
I
Aye. Any opposed? Nope, motion
I
carries.
just want to say I'm really excited about this park. When this first came up as a potential for, this is a great location. It's a great location, but it's also a really nice piece of property there, a piece of land in the heart of the city, and I think some really nice things can happen there.
Yeah, looks like a very good idea of, incorporating an infrastructure need, but yet also,
Exactly.
I expect to be called about this.
Well, I was gonna mention the tires in the stream, and we've done lots of volunteer projects.
Quit putting those in there, would you?
Yeah, put that in there too.
I'm actually gonna have
Volunteer
some,
work going.
I'm actually gonna have some volunteer time too coming up for some select projects. So keep me in mind.
Select.
We'll reach out to you for sure.
I have a question. So you know how they have the rubber mulch? Do those companies take tires for free? Because I'm thinking like they're just recycled tires when they make it. So that's why I put collection day and then I put tires/rubber mulch as like a question of I put collection day and then I put tires/rubber mulch as like a question of if we can get in contact with a company and then have a collection day of tires.
Yeah. Let's look into that a little bit. And,
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
these are always changing. I know we've done cleanups where we've had companies come out and say, we've done cleanups where we've had companies come out and say,
We'll take it.
come out and grab them all, no
Yeah.
charge. And then things change and then they want to be reimbursed for stuff. But we'll dig into that a little bit more and see where the conditions are.
Oil's at $100 a barrel. So
Yeah.
I'm sure they're going to want it.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
and old tennis shoes.
Barrel. So
Yeah.
I'm sure they're going to want it.
Yeah, that's right.
yeah.
And old tennis shoes. Can you
Yeah.
recycle your
Probably
old tennis
going up from
shoes?
there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank
I
you
would
very
like
much
to
for
I like to volunteer as well, so if you have a card or, I'm kind of new to the board, so if you have any information.
Christy's had a card. Yeah, thank you so much. We'll keep this
Thank you.
going.
Thank you
for
for all your
partnering
work
with us.
and helping out the city.
Thank you.
Okay.
Say hi to Nan for me. I keep Zooming with her, but that's all we can do these days.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, got that one done. Did you have another item on today's agenda?
I'm just here for Tom.
Okay. We'll do, so I don't lose track of things, item C, native habit restoration project. James's agenda item?
Oh, you're jumping all the way over there already, huh?
Well, I'm kind of getting all the new business.
I was going to suggest that we, try to work with Parks and Forestry to set up a site for native restoration. But I think we've got two projects in the works, kind of redirection. And this, I forget the name of it again.
Is this
but
Water Tower Park,
Water
or-
Tower,
No, future
There's no
park.
name.
Okay.
future Water Tower Park, offers plenty of opportunities for that.
Park that might be good.
And if Root Pike Wind is already involved in that,
Park that might be good.
and if Root Pike Wind is already involved in both of them, it's going to happen. So I don't, let's just say I don't feel the need to try to go
Anything
beyond that
additional.
right now.
Okay,
If they don't keep me busy, I've got other people who will too, so.
okay,
Busy, I've got other people who will too, so.
okay.
I can keep you busy.
Yeah, I know.
All right, item D, the request by Jeremy Stimpson to consider the regional solar group buy program.
Yeah, so in your packets, you should have received materials from the Midwest Renewable Energy Association. They currently have an open application process to invite communities to participate in a group solar buy. So I have not taken this farther than collecting information from you so that they facilitate this group buy process with collaboration from the city and some input from staff. So solar facilities require inspections by, in our case, it would be the Inspection Services Department, that kind of thing, making sure that everyone understands the requirements. Commissioner Pomahak had some suggestions for other resources. So It's there for your consideration. I think if you have a preference among some of the options that starts to arise, you could make a recommendation to council that the city consider participating, at which point we could look at filling out an application. So the application was in the packet for your time and space and that kind of thing. And it is not clear to me that it's budget neutral, but ultimately the common council would have to make the decision to participate. So that's where that stands.
As this, it looks like the city is basically then recommending, supporting this project or this type of a project,
The city would take on like a facilitator.
or this type of a project.
The city would take on like a facilitator's role. So,
So I guess that's my question. Is it just that the city, is the city have to endorse this, or are they essentially endorsing it by supporting this? And if so, is that something that the city would do? Supporting this? And if so, is that something that the city would do, or?
that would be the request that you make to common council, would they wish to consider joining this program. Part of the question, there are existing residential solar facilities in Franklin. There are some folks that have put them on their roofs. Solar facilities in Franklin, there are some folks that have put them on their roofs. I don't know how common it is. There might be questions from inspection services about whether they have the capacity to handle an influx of new inspections, that kind of thing. So, but those kinds of questions would arise. Maybe we would like to participate. So, but yeah, the city's primary role is as a facilitator, but then there is that electrical inspections piece. Our zoning has no comment on solar facilities of any kind. So basically, as long as they meet building requirements. In our comprehensive master plan, but it's not necessarily comprehensive in that way. So.
Okay. I wasn't aware, but there's lots of things I don't have specific knowledge on. Okay. So yeah, I don't know how folks feel, if we want to take any action at this point.
Of solar panels and stuff like that, like, there's a maintenance program that needs to be established if we do go ahead with this,
Well,
because they don't last forever.
but wouldn't the maintenance be on the homeowner?
Right.
So I think we need to get a little, I think maybe just we should all spend some time looking at it and then either generate, I would just kind of want to look through it, like what's the cost? Like, is it actually a cost savings working within a group, or is it, am I better off just going off on my own type thing?
Right.
So should we just kind of maybe add this to next meeting?
Yep.
After we all take some time to look back over it?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Good idea.
If I could just point one thing out. We're going to have, we've talked about solar for years, and we're going to have some great opportunities coming up in the next 5 or 10 years when we build a new DPW facility and maybe a new fire station. How either one of those ends up, I mean, we're going to station. How either one of those ends up, I mean, we're going to need to do something. And I think if we don't do solar on a city building now, we're never going to do solar on a city building. So I think those are two prime potential projects coming up for us to monitor and keep in touch with. Projects coming up for us to monitor and keep in touch with.
So if I may, as we were selecting the architect for the fire DPW study, we went and visited a lot of fire stations, a lot of DPW stations. I believe it was West Dallas. When they built theirs, we looked at their fire station. Built theirs, we looked at their fire station. I believe he listed off all the green things that they did, the green roofs. They did everything that you could think of, and they also did solar. He basically said that they're getting rid of everything else. It was a pain to have to maintain. They're adding solar to other city buildings. So I took that as learn from their experience.
Yes.
We want to do solar buildings. Even if we don't get our DPW building, it's still a big roof, and we have to replace the roof. We're up there about once a month. I understand, with a couple caulk guns trying to stop leaks. So
Could we possibly add solar to the water tower project to,
That's not real typical to put solar on top of a water tower.
Windmills.
You've got kind of a dome top.
yeah? The sun maintain, it would help, because the motors, gotta be motors in there running, pumps, right? So if it could
I can ask the question.
create its own energy,
I've never heard anybody doing that, but I can ask the question.
throw it out there.
Sure.
We could do like the little flowers, the solar panel flower. They look like flowers. I was thinking. I wasn't thinking on top of the water tower. I thought we were talking about like individual at first. Sorry.
Okay,
So no action on this one?
no action, we'll
Thank you.
bring it up again at the March meeting. At the March meeting. All right, going back to our unfinished business. We're going to jump ahead to item D. I think that would be Tom's item. Head to item D. I think that would be Tom's item, where we talk about the street tree list update, recommendation to Common Council, and then a grant that's in the works.
So as you may remember last spring,
It's in the works.
we had presented that street tree list. We added to the ordinance. We're going to take it to council in fall, and we were rewriting the UDO. That was kind of part of that project as well, and then also the grant in fall for the Wisconsin DNR Urban Forestry Grant. And part of that was for a management plan update. Our last one was created in 2010, right before Emerald Ash Borer hit. So that management plan was kind of geared to how we go about removing and replacing all the ash trees. So part of that grant was to look at ordinances as well as tree plans. We kind of put the street list on hold as we wait for the consultant to go through and look at that stuff with us. Another grant we received was the ATC, American Transmission Company grant, to plant 15 trees within Ken Wendell Park area. There's quite a bit of buckthorn we removed at Ken Wendell Park last spring. So we're going to put in some new native trees in there. That grant went through, and I'm applying for the Southeast Wisconsin Invasive Species Consortium grant for a new brush cutter and stubble and treatment. So we're hoping that grant goes through come March.
Good work. Hopefully, those grants do come through. Any questions? Okay, and then back up to item A, Arbor Day, and we had the list of trees and shrubs. Do we need to make a selection, or has our selection been made?
No, we need to make a selection. I would just add to
A selection, or has our selection been made?
No, we need to make a selection. I would just add to that through the Plant a Million Trees project and Living Lands and Waters. Every year they do like a tree giveaway, and we can get up to hundreds of young oak saplings. We handed out some of those last year, and we did order 200 of those for free. We handed out some of those last year, and we did order 200 of those for free. So that's another source too as well for naturalized projects in the parks or Water Tower Park. There's some resources there for free trees.
So you have, did you say you have
We
ordered them
have
again
200
this
oak
year?
trees.
So you have, did you say you have
We
ordered them
have
again
200
this
oak
year?
trees ordered for pickup. It would be if you want other species, like I know a lot of times we get those white pines or the white spruce and cedar trees. And usually I think last year we did the red maples and I believe hazelnuts and elderberries.
Elderberries.
Oh, can we do the elderberries again?
Are you going to be doing shrubs again?
Yeah, the elderberry, the American hazelnut, and I think we did high bush cranberry last year.
Okay.
So there's some of the options. I just didn't know quantity-wise what you'd like to order.
Are there any potted plants? Because that was one thing people came and talked to us about, like having a patio and not being able to really put a tree in.
No, these are more wildlife shrubs
Okay.
for, naturalized native areas.
Okay.
So that's kind of what these specialize in. A lot of them are 12 to 9 feet. The
Yeah.
smallest one looks like the hazelnut.
And then maybe for the future, because I know Greenfield does this, where they have people that they donate a tree, or they'll just come and plant trees within a park. Maybe that's something we can do in the future, where that way if people can't put a tree on their property necessarily, they can still be involved in Arbor Day, and that just might be a planting a tree in a park type. This year, I don't think we have enough time to plan that, but it might be a nice option to do if we have a park, Pleasant View, or any of those other ones that need trees.
Cheap labor.
Right, well, because everyone, you make it a day and people want to come out, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, as long as it's nice.
No, then,
Yeah,
Yes.
that's what we're doing then, okay.
so I picked elderberry.
I like that.
I'm gonna make my own elderberry.
If I could add to that, I mean, I've already ordered all the native wildflower seeds for the giveaway as part of this, for this day. I'll put the packages together, instruction thing I can put inside the envelopes so that kids or parents can hopefully put seeds where they'll do some good. But I should have at least 50 packets put together, so. And they'll cover 14 different species of native wildflowers.
Throw this out there, last year we talked about if we could get pictures, if you give the seeds away and the kids get the seeds and plant them, and if they're successful, we talked about getting a picture of the kids with the flowers that we gave them, if we could size that. So maybe if we could get a blurb for Arbor Day and let the kids know that if they plant it and they're successful, they should get us a picture.
Yeah, it's, last year's seeds we gave out in fall, and those plants will just be blooming by the time, or starting to bloom. Those plants will just be blooming by the time, or starting to bloom,
Right.
on this event in spring, so it's, but it would be nice, you're right.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
should try to
But
do
the
that,
newsletter just came out. I got mine today.
right,
So I don't think we can get anything in before Arbor Day.
right.
So I don't think we can get anything in before Arbor Day.
No, and that would be a good idea too, but I'm suggesting that on Arbor Day, we let them know that if
There's
they
like a
plant
flyer.
them, get us pictures back, and then it can go in a future newsletter, or somehow we can post.
Okay, so maybe
publicize
that
them.
could go in with his,
Newsletter, or somehow we can post.
okay, so maybe
publicize
that
them.
could go in with his instructions?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I will make that part of it.
And even if nothing else, if we get it in the newsletter, and then the following Arbor Day, we could have a little display of
Of all the pictures,
pictures that we received,
that would be fun.
names of pictures that we received,
That would be fun.
names of kids and stuff.
Yeah.
And it
Show
can
us
be
your
a-
flower power.
Yeah, and it can be an ongoing thing, so if there's a biennial flower that takes 2 years to bloom, just keep it going.
I was just thinking about what we could do for trunk or treat. Plant your own pumpkin, whoever has the biggest pumpkin.
Well,
Making people more active in their gardens.
mhm.
So how many trees/shrubs did we get last year? Or did we-
Last year we had 50 or 75 trees and I got 50 shrubs. You remember, right?
Yeah, I think we should do more shrubs. The shrubs went out really quick. So, and then I think we can keep the trees, but I think shrubs were like, they went very, very quickly.
Is there other options besides elderberry
Yeah.
or hazelnut?
There
There's
was
the
cranberry.
Elderberry, hazelnut, gray dogwood were on the list that was in our
Yes, correct.
packet.
Well, gray dogwood is kind of a common,
Yeah, it's pretty common. It's kind of a pungent smell and cutting it.
yeah, nine bark, I kind of.
Nine bark, I
recall
think,
nine
has
bark
some
being-
issues.
Oh, does it? Okay.
Yeah, I think the best would be the high bush cranberry or hazelnut would probably be the best two options.
Okay.
High bush cranberry, any opposition?
Nope.
No opposition.
Okay, elderberry and high bush cranberry. And then do we, elderberry and high bush cranberry? And then do we need a couple trees again?
Yeah, usually the white cedars go really fast.
Yeah. I like the maple too.
Maple, either
And then
sugar or red
something.
maple or one of each. Because we'll have oaks there already.
Right,
What do you,
Because we'll have oaks there already.
right.
what do you think?
I like the sugar maple or red maple. I would avoid the silver maple. We end up seeing them on our roads, and they're not the greatest street tree.
They're another
They're
kind.
very fast growers. And they can get quite large.
Do we want to make sure we're diversifying? So do we have,
And they can get quite large.
do we want to make sure we're diversifying? So do we have a lot of one over the other?
Citywide, we have a lot of maples, but not the red or sugar maple.
Okay.
And in backyards, everyone likes the maples for the colors, so it's usually a pretty popular
I
choice.
think,
Yep. People
Sugar.
recognize that. Sugar maple?
yeah, just because I like the name.
Okay.
I think last year you had the white spruce, right?
We may have had two evergreens that I know for sure we had white cedar.
Because
We always
those
get
went
white
really,
cedar.
went really fast, the
Yes.
spruces.
Yeah, and the cedars
Yeah.
go really fast.
So.
Are we doing-
I don't think we can go wrong.
Yeah, I know. Are we doing a white cedar or a spruce? Are we doing either piney type things?
It'd be up to you guys what you'd prefer if you want to do both. I think right now we're at 50 bushes and 25 trees, so
25 white cedar, 25.
can do that.
Do you want any pine?
Yeah, spruces.
Pines don't really do that well in the soils here, being so wet. Usually you see the white pines that kind of get yellowing towards the needles.
I can bring some.
Last time we did, we had a piece of buckthorn, and someone thought, like, "Oh, is this what it's gonna look like?" And I was like, "No."
Yeah, we put it in the flower pots out front of the library.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Can you make some jam with that, maybe?
So we're gonna do 25 of you pick. Like, what do you want to see in this town? Like, would you rather see a spruce or would you rather see a like? Would you rather see a spruce or would you rather see a cedar? I guess that's kind of what it comes down to. Like the cedar.
The
looks like
cedars
an
are
arborvitae.
pretty easy sellers. I think
Yeah.
people are kind of worried about trees getting too large. The spruce trees can get rather large.
So let's do the cedar then. It's white cedar, right?
Yeah, it's basically the arborvitaes.
Yeah.
The cedar then. It's white cedar, right?
Yeah, it's basically the arborvitaes.
Yeah.
People like those first.
I would just like to make a recommendation that we move it, the location to Grover Schmidt Park. It's in Franklin, and if we want to, it's in Franklin, and if we want to, and then have Tom or someone show how to plant the tree, we could do that.
We could. That would be interesting. But what if it rains?
We can figure something out.
'Cause
Right?
it-
What do you do inside the library?
already-
Or
Yeah,
inside-
it's at the
Newsletter,
library.
though.
Oh, what do you do inside the library?
already
Or
in
Yeah,
inside-
it's at the
Newsletter,
library.
though.
Oh,
And I talked to the library, the other piece of
Okay.
this,
Okay,
about
maybe-
we can, as of now, we can get the smaller half of the Federal Room.
Oh, okay.
You had talked about if we have a guest
Okay.
speaker.
Okay.
So I don't know if we can do it this year.
I don't know, I just think it'd be kind of cool. I want to try and think of some ideas too, that we can make it more.
Or if there's maybe a different event in the fall,
Plant an oak.
Yeah.
have it at, or in the summer, whatever, to have it at the park.
Well, if we end up doing that where you plant a tree versus taking a tree,
Right.
we could always pick any park. So we could Kayla's, wherever we want to.
That's a good idea.
What?
I'll just note that Grover Schmidt Park is a county park, so I
Yes.
assume that we would have to ask for permission from the county, which is not infeasible, but Franklin has its own parks. So,
Yes.
Lion Legends Park might be an option for that,
Oh, yeah.
even Oak and the Oak Savannah there.
They do have a nice new pavilion there too.
They do.
That would work well.
Yeah. And it's only a walk.
That's
It's not
true.
a trek.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
So I have 75 trees right now and 50 shrubs. Quite a few oaks as well.
Plus
Go with what we've had in the past.
Pretty similar, usually like 100 trees.
can you, hang on. So 25 elder, 25 high bush.
Yep.
How many sugars?
25 sugar maples, 25 spruce, and
Okay, we're doing
25
the
cedars.
spruce.
And we also, this year, Keeping Greater Milwaukee Beautiful is on schedule for the cleanup as well. And we also, this year, Keeping Greater Milwaukee Beautiful is on schedule for the cleanup as well, so you can sign up for that. And have garbage bags and that stuff available for
And that kind of goes along with what the commissioner was saying, though, since we're kind of united there at a location, we have to take that into consideration. If you're kind of united there at a location, we have to take that into consideration in the future.
yes.
And is 25 maples enough? Because I think that's a popular one.
Yeah, I think we could do more. Get 2 packs of those.
So do 50 of those?
I'd recommend that,
Okay.
because I want to be in line for one.
50 of those?
I'd recommend that,
Okay.
because I want to be in line for one.
Wait a
And
minute. Oh, that's right. You're
Did you
nominating.
say we were getting out 200 oak sampling, or did I mishear you?
No, 200 oak saplings, yep.
Okay, so we're gonna have like 325 bushes, right?
And those are all good species if we have extras to put in the parks. Spruce trees are kind of hard to find a home for.
Do you have more information on the Keeping Milwaukee Beautiful cleanup?
Don't have any with me. We've done it in the past, so for
Okay.
quite a few years. I think last year was the first year we didn't do it. In 2022 it was canceled as well because of COVID.
Yeah, okay. If we could,
And so depending on COVID, we can perhaps get more of the federal room. They wanted us cleared out by 1 o'clock.
Some other time, let's just, no. I
Some
don't-
other
no,
time?
I don't think so. It's a couple months to get the groups together for, just a couple hours in the morning. If we could maybe consider an Earth Day thing or something for, a longer period, either next year or in fall, I don't know. But
well, why don't we just keep it in case we have to move inside, and then.
Right, yeah, we'll hang on.
And then we can always develop that more.
yeah, you may need the room. Really.
Yeah, we'll hang on,
Hang on to it, and then.
yeah. Okay, anything else on Arbor Day?
I think that covers it. We'll get the trees ordered.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
And you're gonna go out, or did you have anything else for us?
What else is on the agenda?
Buckthorn, anything else for us?
What else is on the agenda?
Buckthorn?
I'm interested in the buckthorn issue.
Jumped.
Do we have any articles for the City of Franklin newsletter?
I do not. Commissioner Pomenhack did not share anything with me, so I will remind, Commissioner Pomenhack did not share anything with me, so I will remind the commission that I believe she is not seeking a renewal of her role, so Commissioner Garrick, I don't know if you were going to step into that, or if someone else would like to. The coordination with the high school, or if someone else would like to. The coordination with the high school, because I think her next meeting or the meeting after that will be her last.
Yeah, April.
Probably March, April.
Yep. So.
Or I just made a note. To myself.
So the survey was deployed last Friday on the website, and also with collection boxes dropped off at the library, and there is the one outside of the Department of City Development. There are no surveys in it yet, paper ones, so I did not actually, unfortunately, I should have done this, checked for results until after your next meeting. And then I have to say thank you to the GIS department who helped do the formatting of it and distributing of it. So then we'll have some numbers for you at the April meeting with the results. So I'm not sure what it'll look like if you're sharing it on social media. You might want to test it first.
It just pops up as the commission page, and then you click on it, and then it's a green background with the questions. It looks really nice.
Yeah, so the formatting looks great. It's but if you like post it somewhere, I don't know if it would say like Buckthorn survey and the like.
I posted, so I tried posting like web link because it pops up right at the top. So it looks better. Like you click on it, you go right to our page, and then right at the top it talks about the Buckthorn survey. So it made more sense than doing the ArcGIS like logging. Because even I was like, hang on a second, if I didn't know what was going on, although I do, does this make sense? No, versus like, I'll just put the Franklin page. So then you get the little city of Franklin. And I already supported the mission by, it's already on all the Facebook community pages. We'll see how many hatred emails I get about it.
Well, my email address is in the survey, and I have not received any emails yet, so.
Yeah, I just put it up today.
Okay.
And then run.
If I could add a couple things on Buckthorn. Concurrent with this meeting was another Zoom presentation sponsored by the Wild Ones National Organization on weed ordinances, and I know it would be a fascinating. I'm expecting to get the link for people who might want to look at it later, and I will forward it to Marion, and she can probably figure out how to forward it.
I will
So
send it along to the commission.
I mean, but it was supposed to run an hour and a half, and but it's Midwestern. Everybody's involved in it. And this week, Saturday, for those of you who don't have anything to do, even Tom at Grobschmidt, there is a buckthorn removal event here in Franklin at, I'm trying to remember the name of the Franklin, I'm trying to remember the name of this property. I want to say Crittenton Prairie, but it's at the west end of West Prairie Grass Way, which is off of Highway 100. And it's this event off of Highway 100. And this event is with the Milwaukee Area Land Conservancy.
Go down.
They are monitoring the property and doing buckthorn clearing and a few others. Yeah, it's a real windy little road, and a few others. Yeah, it's a real windy little road that goes back almost behind Marcus Theaters there. Yeah, where it dead ends, that's where they're going to have their fun event. If you want to help out, they said bring loppers or a bow saw. If you just want to watch, that's okay. Said bring loppers or a bow saw. If you just want to watch, that's okay too.
So is the assembly point at the cul-de-sac there?
Right at the end of the road.
Not over at
Yeah.
the theater and walk over? Okay.
Yeah, it's
What time does it start?
9:30. But the Land Conservancy, 9:30. But the Land Conservancy obviously owns a number of properties here in Franklin, including that new one on Ryan Creek, I think it was called. That, I mean, I'm just tickled to death about that. So I'm just tickled to death about that. So I'm kind of curious to see how they're going to do this and what kind of help they want and what kind of system they're using. So, but everyone's invited.
I'll probably show up. I just, Tom, I'm just thinking about, like, show up. Tom, I'm just thinking about, like, when you cut buckthorn and you treat it, are they going to treat it, I assume? It's not always best to treat it in the spring, or like, not even the spring. Like, we're in March, February, March. Like, that's not a good time to treat buckthorn. It's going to be sucking into the ground, right? Usually wait until, like, June, going into winter.
Yeah, fall's usually the best, just falling everything back down, really rough.
Right. So this might be a wasted.
Well, what it does a lot of times is spring, it kind of stops anything from resprouting.
Well, yeah, you're not going to get the berries.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
I like
I don't know if this is a retreatment or if it's, a first try, but it sounds like they've been at it before there. So,
I'll go check it out.
I think still you have to cut it down first before you do much else, and it's not going to grow back up to the same size by fall when you want to probably cut it again and treat it.
Buckthorn, 2, 3, 4 feet in a year.
Right.
Someone has been at that property before, I think, is it a year ago or 2 years ago? Because that's kind of on a walking route that I do, and I know they were out there for weeks.
yeah, there's a
clearing
couple of
it.
parcels that are all
Okay.
connected. Apparently a family foundation donated.
Okay, anything else on buckthorn? Wait for survey results.
So you're going?
Oh, yeah, I'll be there.
Okay.
Oh, I have apologize. There is one more thing in your packet. There should have been a copy of the Invasive Species Management Program for Milwaukee County. This is their adopted policy for the park system. So it's not just for buckthorn, it's for a variety of species that are either on the DNR's protected or restricted list, and some other things that they've identified as specifically problems, and then they're kind of doing like a targeted process because they have limited resources. But it's there for your information, and for possibly to inform some discussion in the future. So
Can you repeat what it's called?
it is the Milwaukee County Parks Invasive Species Prevention and Control Guidance document. So
It was under this item, I4C.
document. So
It was under this item, I4C.
yep.
Okay. Did the trees, item E, environmental commission participation.
So, in your packet, there should have been a Gantt chart, a schedule, which is indicating kind of the overall timeline of the UDO project. And we have essentially completed the diagnostic step. So the portion in yellow, we've basically completed that step up to the last item there and are starting to move on. So basically at this point, the diagnostic step was presented to the Plan Commission, and then Common Council, based on the recommendations that have come out of that diagnostic step, they're going to start working on actual recommended chapters and revisions. So this is kind of a wholesale look at all of the ordinances. So it's going to be a pretty lengthy process. You'll get in chunks. It won't be, they're not going to throw a whole 200-page document at you at once. But that is the next step. So it was kind of an interesting discussion.
That was a long one.
Yeah. It was only 2 hours.
Yeah, only 2 hours.
It was only 2 hours.
Yeah, only 2 hours.
So,
I think if you guys can go on the meeting, like the Plan Commission agenda, which has the packet, and go through it, there is a good chunk about natural resources and utilizing various landscaping management plans, etc. And utilizing various landscaping management plans, etc. And they had a really good water, I don't remember what her title was. She was on Zoom.
Yeah. What is her title?
Like she's the natural resource
Yeah.
gal, was very knowledgeable. So natural resource
Yeah.
gal was very knowledgeable. So, and that is also a recorded meeting, so if you want to go on and listen.
It's on YouTube, actually. The whole
Yes.
meeting was posted
Yep.
to the...
Very informative, keeping up with Wisconsin. They've done work in Madison before, so a lot of her examples were coming out of Madison for some of those different plannings and ordinances that they had developed out there. So I'm trying to think if there's anything that was like,
Oh, gosh.
very special.
The conversation was dominated by kind of the current zoning ordinance in particular has some issues with duplication. So the conversation didn't directly address the natural resource standards at length, because they're an important part of the ordinance out first. So there will be more information forthcoming. I mentioned model ordinances that have been shared and recommended plant lists. So a lot of the discussion is probably, some of the recommendations will likely be to incorporate other guidance by reference, Army Corps of Engineers, that kind of thing, because those often influence what we can require. So that's also worth knowing, is that the DNR has a lot of controls that we then have like supplements to. But we would be then incorporating that by reference. So there'll be more information, but as the chapters come forth, they'll be shared with the commissioners that are actually on the task force, and then if the whole commission, I will make sure that you will see the pieces that are specific to natural resources and environment, so.
Okay. And did you say this was at a planning? Okay. And did you say this was at a planning commission meeting, which?
February 2nd.
Okay.
Yeah, it was the first Thursday of February. I was gonna add something. Oh, if you haven't gone on the website yet for the UDO rewrite, you can go on there and if you haven't gone on the website yet for the UDO rewrite, you can go on there and identify areas of natural resources that you find to be either pristine or very important on a map, like an interactive map. So, like, Jim, our Commissioner Cecilic, you were discussing about a woodland area, I believe off of like Jim, our Commissioner Cecilic, you were discussing about a woodland area, I believe off of like 116th Street that you couldn't get access to, but it was like, it's owned by, it's like an easement or something. You can go on the map and you can identify that as being like a pristine area that you wouldn't want developed or is a wetland or anything like that. So I highly recommend anybody to go on there and I kind of identify those types of areas. So that way when they are going through maybe rezoning or looking at doing a zoning map, they can highlight, oh, when do we do?
Yeah, the community knows the community the best. And I think it's really important to gather this kind of input because it will inform not just this UDO rewrite, but, you know, planning is an iterative process, so there'll be other policies that we are working on in the future that this is, it's, in case you didn't see where I went, this is the city's website under the planning department. It's just Unified Development Ordinance Rewrite. Takes you to this website, which has a bunch of different information about this, and then the map is, this is the map. So these
Citizens commented on the original survey, which is a very small amount of citizens, although they were all very environmentally friendly. I highly recommend everyone goes on and does it.
Okay.
Does it.
Okay.
There's a property viewer. Maybe this mouse hates me. There we go. Where am I going?
Zoom in.
Zoom in.
Correct the meeting. Zoom in.
Zoom in.
Correct the meeting.
What?
For another issue after the meeting.
Okay. I can't
All right,
do anything.
item F, landfill life expectancy and future plans.
Yep, so included in your packet was a document which was provided to me by the city engineer and is kind of, the management plan for the landfill. I have not reviewed it, so it's there for your information. I know it was lengthy.
You have a question, I can take a question, get back to you next month. Take a question, get back to you next month.
I think a number of months ago, I guess, yeah, it was, is there a long-term plan for the landfill when it reaches its capacity, or?
There is maps with some contours and such when how they plan to build it out.
Well, is it just gonna be a big
Ski hill.
ski hill?
I can't tell
Sledding
you,
hill?
I can't tell you, I'm intimate with the plan, but if that's your question, I can research it more.
I think that was one of the questions that was taught with it, or is it going to be Mount Franklin South, or whatever it ends up being named?
Put a ballpark on top.
It's almost too bad you couldn't save the landfill and stick it in the quarry where it's,
So down
I don't think they'd want it there either.
That's
in
landfill.
China, they built a subsurface huge village in a former landfill. Just a huge, I can't remember what it was called, but it's the huge village. They put a cover on it. They actually have winter sports down there in summertime.
Okay.
Well, wasn't there talk too about the quarry gonna, when it expires, to fill it with water and turn it into like a water park?
Like a park of some sort.
Yeah.
Like the quarry they have down in Racine,
Yeah, there's one
Right.
north of us too, up,
Sussex,
I thought it was further up.
Sussex,
I thought it was further up.
Lannon.
Lannon.
Quarry?
But is that open as a park? Oh, I guess
I'll
is
have to
it
look and
Lannon
see.
Park?
There's-
Lannon is, yeah.
Yeah.
And the Racine one is too.
Yeah, there's one where they brought in sand and it's just
Yeah.
beautiful. And they put they brought in sand and it's just
Yeah.
beautiful. And they put like a water trampoline out there, like you can rent, yeah, it's really cool. They made it so you can, the city can make money on it, so.
Future plan.
All right, landfill, do we want to? All right, landfill, do we want to have this on for another month yet? See if there's any questions, or, if folks got through that document?
I'm gonna go future development.
Well, I guess ultimately the biggest question is what's going to happen to it, or what's the closure plan, so if Glenn could get that for us, unless that's in the document, we just haven't gotten to that point. Other than that,
I believe it is, but it hasn't come up before for questions, so I'll do a little investigation.
And then life expectancy, I guess, like how many more years are we expecting to keep filling in this?
yeah.
Okay, item G, funding for environmental commission activities.
Yep, so I know this is a question for you guys to start to think about. Again, your commission is not affiliated with a particular department. For you guys to, either as a group or individually, come up with either some programs and what you would need to accomplish that, the things that you're already doing that you want to fund materials for, or you can kind of throw whatever you want on this list, and then I can compile it. The process is the mayor puts forward a proposed budget, and we would have to figure out whose budget this should be attached to, but at this point it's up to you to say, here's what we think we should have funding for, over and above what's already being done by Public Works and Planning. So, and I included an example item here, which was the rain garden. I know you guys want to continue to do that. I think that's a wonderful idea. So, but then if there was equipment, or if you wanted to have the other recommendations that you wanted to make, you could throw the kitchen sink in here, but then you will be required to refine it. So.
So as far as the tree giveaway, that wouldn't go in here. Arbor Day tree giveaway does not.
So that is a Department of Public Works budget item.
Giveaway does not.
So that is a Department of Public Works budget item. I think when we speak with the city administrator and Public Works, it should be noted that is, Public Works is taking that out of their budget, but it is in collaboration with the Environmental Commission. So I'm not totally sure what her recommendation will be about how to set this budget up. But like printing costs, if you do think that you want to get some better graphic design for something, that's not something I can provide for you. And to pay a speaker, it really is, what do you think you need within reason?
Full-time environment, I'm sorry.
Do we have a fund right now?
No.
So it's at $0.
We have nothing right now. That's why we were developing a budget.
Budget per se, but, right.
Yeah,
So
so
the garden
current,
giveaway for Arbor Day will come out of some other pocket than Jim's. The city's pocket.
Well, our pockets really,
Well, yeah.
but yeah, so currently, this commission's not associated with a department. Some of them are and some of them are not. The Department of Public Works does all of the forestry, et cetera, and I am in the planning department, so my staff time is, you know, dedicated to this commission, and then,
I'm already writing on here.
yep.
So how much is print, like, per piece of paper cost right now? Like, are you guys at 5 cents a piece of paper, like?
I don't know, that's a good question.
Because, like, I know, like, at the district level, for me, I know how much my paper costs.
Yeah.
Because obviously we get yelled at a lot, so.
Yeah. What I would suggest, and then you can drop them off or email them to me, and I can compile them. There's a couple of things here. So it's category. I kind of put some broad categories of things that are common in budgets here for you as a point of reference. Location, if it's in city park, that might help make clear where that budget would come from. Item amount, quantity are pretty obvious, but then when doing, there's a worksheet that we often have to do for budgets. You have to set the priority and then what year. So this would obviously be many years into the future, over several years, or we want to do this on an ongoing basis. You should specify that. So, yep.
Okay, get our ideas to Marion.
Okay.
On your list there.
Well, I was thinking about asking you about this, Glenn. On top of the water tower, since you probably can't put something spiky, could you put a nesting platform on them?
That's a good question. Well, could we? Yeah. Would it be effective? I don't know. So for example, it does, every time a cell antenna goes up there, we have to have a whole structural analysis. So any cell company that wants to do any sort of modification, we send them to our consultant. They have to, that tall up in the air, it's a tough deal. So you could put, say, a nest up there. Would a bird actually use it?
Well, I don't ask just out of curiosity. I did approach Milwaukee County about this, and I was willing to, solicit funding from Audubon to put the nests together, the nests. But we happen to be the only county in the state without active eagle nests, and I know we have them passing through because I see them quite frequently. The same with osprey, the same with great horned owls. And a top of a tower like that, or the side of a tower with something sticking out, is what peregrine falcons and eagles and ospreys love to use. And
Is there an idea?
I would almost guarantee you tell me how much money you need, and I'll find it for you.
Well,
Guarantee you tell me how much money you need, and I'll find it for you.
Well, if I design it now, it's probably not, an extra platform's not a big deal. Is there an ideal height?
Oh, it's got to be as high as you can put it.
I've never heard of one, with a nest on top of, I've never heard of one, with a nest on top of a tower, but
I haven't either, but, here we are.
I would suspect maybe
creating a nice serene area where the birds would be able to sit on top of their roost and have nothing but a few park visitors.
Salt.
And, have nothing but a few park visitors.
Salt. When I check on solar on a tower, I'll check the bird nest on the tower.
I would, like I
Could
said,
you-
I'll be happy to.
Could you do it where, like, don't you usually put like a circle stand on the base, not the base, but like you have the tower, then you have like a little stand
Yeah,
underneath
usually
it?
mounted on top of poles.
So like, couldn't you like
Platform.
put like a little platform hanging
But
underneath
if
that
you look at,
little?
if you look at the Wisconsin Electric nests, they're mounted on the side of chimneys.
Okay.
They're as high as they can safely get them, I guess.
I would hate to go through the effort to spend a few $1,000 to create something and
Yeah.
nothing ever happens.
We'll see.
Like I said, we're the only county in the state that doesn't have an eagle nest in it.
Right. And
And
bald
we
eagles.
see them here.
Bald eagles were almost
He sees them
extinct.
at Grove Schmidt. I see them at Weir Nature Center and in my own backyard. It would be great to see Frank.
And like look at costs and stuff too, to see what that could look like.
I'd be happy to.
Right, like have they been put on a water tower before? Or is there gonna be, like, if there are pumps and stuff, would that sound actually inhibit them from
Oh,
wanting to
yeah.
be there?
That's
So would
true.
it have to be something different,
It's actually fairly quiet. There's no,
humming or anything?
you won't coming in,
Got it.
water leaving, there's no motor running.
It's
Got
pretty
it.
much gravity, right?
Hmm?
Pretty much gravity driven in terms of,
Right.
yeah, okay.
The pumps are down on the ground.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what would inhibit.
And the only pumps might be, the only motors might be associated with the cell, the only motors might be associated with the cell. And then that's the other thing, with the cell
Cell towers.
equipment, would that interfere with bird stuff? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a bird expert.
Yeah, or can you have a platform partway up on one of the supports? Or is it a center, is it partway up on one of the supports? Or is it a center, is it like this
would be a
tower?
concrete pillar with the metal bowl on top.
Okay. Is this water tower, wherever it is, gonna remain, or will that?
For a while. Curiously enough, that the cost to replace that tower is almost as, or it's just a little bit more than the cost to repaint it. So when it comes time to repaint it, we're just gonna tear it down. The fire department will have more room for their stuff. More room for their stuff.
And that's why there's two going in at the park.
There's two planned, we're
Okay.
only building one now.
Got it. Okay.
So it's a rule of thumb for how much water we should have in the air based on our daily usage. And you need to get more water up in the air, and the state knows that too. So
Got it.
a little behind the time, especially with, so we have an east zone and a west zone for a water system. And so right now, the only west zone tower is the one behind the fire station. It's a very small tower. So now this other tower will allow for all this other growth that's going on in the city.
Yeah, is there another one?
Oh, I'm sorry, you said the east.
Yeah.
Buttes, 76th.
Oh, that's, yeah, I know where that is. Yep. I know exactly where that is.
Right there.
I forgot it was there, yeah.
And that side actually is planned for another tower someday too.
Oh. Like a bigger tower? Or we're gonna get two towers.
Someday.
Twin towers! We can call it the 9/11 Remembrance Park.
Yeah.
9/11 Remembrance.
Twin Peaks, the wacky TV show.
Sorry. Do we have anything else?
We have the next meeting. And the only other thing is if we had tentatively a presentation in April at the library or somewhere.
So there is not an option for remote presentation at the library or in City Hall that I can reserve for you, and the DNR, the library or in City Hall that I can reserve for you, and the DNR is available only remotely, so.
So at this,
So probably nothing for April. But if James has some groups that he wanted us to hear from, we can perhaps have them do a
And
presentation.
April's kind of
down-
a quick,
No, I was gonna say down the road,
oh,
July,
well,
September.
yeah, I mean, if we could do like an Earth Day program, where we had an Earth Day program, where we had like maybe 4 or 5 hours of presentations or, displays, information booths. I'm sure we could bring in some pretty good people. The guy from Prairie Future Seed said he was very willing to come down and talk about native gardening and how to convert your gardens. But, without being certain, of the availability, I wasn't going to ask him to commit, so.
You don't want to, anything you do plan, you want to stay away from April 3rd and date.
Oh, yeah, I
Oh,
saw that.
That's April 30th, and
that's prom.
I think we're scared that people are going to be lined up everywhere, so.
They will be.
I'm
Are
already
you
loading my
doing it?
boxes in the car.
Are you doing it with educators, or are we doing it on our own? Because Educators Credit Union does it too, and they'll come out and.
We're paying for it,
Okay.
and it's kind of see how it goes, and we'll have to increase solid waste fees if we decide to make it a regular thing.
Okay.
But we have enough money in the budget, we're gonna try it once and see how it goes.
You should do
Yeah.
4 hours till it's filled.
Or till filled? Oh, I was gonna wait till 2:45, but,
It's going to be a successful day
I have a new agenda item, and how do I present that?
right now.
Sure. Sure. Oh, we had one other item, but
I'm on groups on Facebook and stuff, and I had a teacher reach out to me
Jamie?
and asked, there are third graders in Franklin that study a unit on environmental changes in Franklin In May, we are in need of someone who could either provide us with information and or come and talk to our students about changes that have happened in Franklin and that impacts they have had on our community. Do you know of anyone that could help us with this? I'm probably a little bit too raw in that area. That I would be open to it in the future, but
Changes in Franklin? Changes in Franklin?
I think in the environmental, I think like this thing on 35th would be
That
something
would
you could
be
talk about.
Perfect.
You know how you mentioned that it used to go all the way across, and now they try to move it, and now it's going back to work as nature is
Well, and
something.
even like the development of putting streams underneath into sewers versus keeping them natural. It's very easy to talk about. There's a lot you can talk about. You can.
But it's third graders.
Yeah, third graders.
I don't like third graders.
So it's
Nothing
May,
notified.
so can we talk about it next month a little bit?
Come in and just to do a little bit of a spin on it, where they can have like the historical input. Because we were a lot of farmland at one time, and then just
Yeah.
overall like development, how does that change? And you're not even talking about any of like the big major issues right now that people are kind of upset about. We could just talk about how we've developed and how that development has changed, and keep it very just unpoliticized, neutral.
Well, I can definitely ask her. I can tell her that it'll be on the agenda next month and ask her to come to the meeting.
Yeah,
And
so
she
we
can-
can kind of bounce ideas off of her.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, I'll add that to March.
She's,
Oh, okay.
Oh, there's third graders.
Did you write that one? I didn't write it down.
I've got notes for the agenda.
You got this for the agenda. So I'm not gonna-
Last item we had was overview on conservation easements. Now Marion gave us a draft outline of conservation easements.
So what you received is the template that we provide to anyone who we are requiring to produce a conservation easement, either as a result of a natural resource special exception, or otherwise, there are other points in the development process, where we might require that for a site plan if it's a new building, or if it's a subdivision, those kinds of things. So it's the template with a set of standard conditions in it for you guys to review. What is not here is there's a page called Exhibit A. Everyone is required to produce an exhibit, a drawing of the easement that they're proposing. So they all look different. There's not one map of all of them, which is kind of unfortunate because I can't show you where they all are. But that becomes a recorded document with Milwaukee County that basically clarifies what can and cannot be done with that property. So there are other types of conservation easements. So if you have questions about it, but know that this commission has occasionally recommended modifications to this template for specific applications for NRSEs. And then if you have other questions about how conservation easements work, and what kinds of things to protecting natural resources, with some pros and cons, specifically these do not occur unless there is a development proposal. So they are protecting something in the course of development as opposed to proactively protecting them. So the template's there. If you have other questions, please let me know at your next meeting if you'd like, so that you have a better sense of it, especially you will have 3 NRSCs in the next few months. So
I do have a question, is how do we manage them? Is that part of the application process, or is it kind of just that we're keeping this easement for you because we have to and we're never going to touch it again?
yeah, so as I mentioned, it's a recorded property document. So what the exhibit is, there's what's called a legal description. It's kind of a surveyor's word description, and then the drawing. But that varies. So the most, and then the drawing. But that varies. So the most common result is that we don't monitor them. It would be frankly prohibitive to do that. Occasionally, if we know there is an issue, we get a complaint, or there's an issue with an ongoing development complaint, or there's an issue with an ongoing development. Someone from planning, or most frequently Tom, actually will go out there and inspect to see if there's been impacts within the easement. We do allow for certain kinds of forestry work and other things to remove dead or dying trees. And we try to be flexible about invasive species, but that's kind of tough to do. But yeah, we don't actively monitor, because I currently don't have a clear picture of how many of them there are, and it may be a lot.
Is there a reason why we don't have like a map of where they all are?
It has not been compiled over time. So these are sometimes very small objects that occur during development processes, and I have requested a list from Register of Deeds, but it's not possible to get like a list of just that type of easement, and there are dozens of other kinds. So they were like, you can have this list with a huge number of data points on it, and I still haven't gotten the list actually, but like when I do, a lot of them, and they all vary in size. Once we have the legal descriptions, we could theoretically map them, but that's going to be an undertaking with GIS that wouldn't be part of my skill set. So
yeah,
Summer student.
yeah.
So invasives can or can't be removed?
but the easement don't really allow for, you can usually remove dead or dying trees, but we have occasionally either added language about invasive species, or otherwise, allowed for some removal of buckthorn, but it's usually with buckthorn, but it's usually with supervision from Tom. So it's a little bit tricky, because that issue has, I think, emerged since this template was drafted, so it doesn't really account for that. So
Okay. Any other questions? Do we want to see more examples?
yeah, I could show you an example of a recent, well, actually one that would have been the result of an NRSE. I think usually when those applications come to you, the NRSEs, the easement hasn't been drafted yet because it's not clear what will be allowed. So
Just that there's one needed.
Yeah.
yeah.
And conservation easements can't be sold, correct? So like conservation easements can't be sold, correct? So like in 50 years, they can't just be sold for development. They have to stay conservation easement.
So the easement is specific to the property described within the easement.
Okay.
So the property around the easement could change, but that would not affect the easement and its protection. The easement could change, but that would not affect the easement and its protection requirements.
Okay.
I can't think of a specific example of that, but they're commonly a result of land division documents. So conservation easements are actually a requirement when someone comes to do what's called a conservation easements are actually a requirement when someone comes to do what's called a certified survey map, where you split a property or combine a property or otherwise do a subdivision. But they don't, they're a separately recorded document, so it's separate. So it's separate.
Okay. Any other additional items for next month? Okay, I'm sure Mary will come up with some.
I do actually, I have a question. Can this, the easement thing, can we have that, like, how it's rewritten or the template redone, so that way in the future, like, because we are redoing our planning ordinances, is that something that we can have redone so we can add, like, the invasive species part or some sort of management plan, so that way it's not just this.
Thinking through an invasive species recommendation might be appropriate. I would have to talk to the city attorney, because this isn't like an adopted,
Yeah,
the template isn't an adopted policy, the requirement is,
yeah,
but what's in it isn't specified within the ordinances.
got it.
Um,
It's just a kind of a spots be little nurseries.
Yeah, and in some case, so there's an example of a NRSC from a number of years ago where there was a requirement that the applicant conduct invasive species removal and a maintenance plan, but that plan has since expired, and now the easement is in some ways making.
Motion to adjourn? Anybody still awake out there?
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.